Hi friends. If you click to check out the new V series from ESUM, then please keep on watching. Hi, I'm Alicia. If it's your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on my video. And if you are returning, well, thank you for visiting me again. Kinky Sweat stands for my kinky hair and sweat life. I'm a fitness professional who loves things all movement and beauty. If you want to check out what I do in between the makeups, you can head over to my Instagram. A huge thank you to Muse Beauty Pro for sending me their Vexlon collection. I am just beyond grateful, and of course a huge thank you to you guys, because without your support and your engagement and you watching videos, these opportunities will not happen. So always want to thank you for that first and foremost. This is their new Vexlon line, or as they call it, their V series, and some of these brushes actually will replace a few of their existing ones, which I'm kind of sad about, not gonna lie. Their G34, their S33 and S31 brushes, which I have used extensively and adore. Some of these brushes will be replaced with their synthetic counterparts, but we also are introduced to new shapes in this collection. In addition to the prices, the only day I have is a shipping one, and it's listed as November 13th, so I'm assuming perhaps these will go on pre-order, and if so, this is when the brushes will ship on November 13th. I'm not entirely sure if ESUM will offer bundles. For instance, it'll be less if you get all the brushes, so stay tuned for those details, and when I do receive them, I'll put them down below in the description box. And also know that the links will be affiliated. I am an affiliate with Muse Beauty Pro. I just want to put it out there, and that link will be noted with an asterisk. So if you feel comfortable using my link, I always appreciate your support. If you want to go directly to the site, that's cool also. I believe we're getting new shapes in addition to some replacements here in the V series. And let me read some product knowledge. You know I love the product knowledge. Introducing the latest collection of professional makeup brushes from ESUM, the V series. This collection has been crafted with a new man-made fiber engineered to deliver a high performance in application for powder makeup mediums. The elasticity of this fiber extends the life of the brush, ensuring both function and form. It says here that Vexlon fiber is a smooth synthetic material available in extra fine gauges, designed to mimic the natural tapered end of hair, which is a critique I've always had with synthetic brushes, that because they have to be laser cut, they don't yield that same silky soft blend like natural hair brushes do. But it seems here that they are aware of that, and this new fiber is extra thin, so it could be a little more close to that experience. This vegan alternative allows for a controlled pickup and lay down of powder makeup mediums, but artistically open to all applications. Now, in addition to all the demos I'm about to show you now, I did use the brushes yesterday, so I will implement a lot of footage just so you can see as many mediums as possible used with these brushes. Look at our Bay Alphonse looking all handsome. It's exciting to design makeup brushes with new materials that deliver a unique level of performance. I had each brush sampled with various gauge sizes of fibers to test for the best application. I am always in search to elevate the experience for both makeup artists and enthusiasts. This material extends the benefits for the beloved classic brush shapes. Now, all timestamps will be down below. I'm so sorry I didn't say that in the beginning, but yeah, if you just need to see it one brush and not all 8, I totally understand. With that said, why don't we come in a little closer? That's enough. Skin is prepped, and I wanted to go in with the first brush that I start my routine with is the V50. The ESUM V50, also called the angled blush makeup brush, retails for $36. An angled scallop shaped brush for blush, bronzer, highlight, and face sculpting. I use this brush in the B-roll here to apply my foundation, as well as blend the concealer under my eyes. I appreciate its angled shape, and the bristles are very soft. And something to note here, this is the advantage that synthetic fibers have over natural hair ones. As much as I love my natural hair brushes for foundation application, I am very well aware that because of the natural fibers, it will soak up more product. The advantage synthetic fibers have, therefore, is that they don't soak up as much product because they don't have cuticles on their fibers, and that will allow the brush to apply more product onto your face and not waste any thereafter. And I appreciate any angles for foundation application, as I feel the brush just fits beautifully onto the skin. It's not too big, but not too small either. It gets my foundation on fairly quickly. And although it's pretty big for under my eyes, I still managed to apply most of the concealer underneath. And if anything, I could use the smaller brushes included in this collection to get right under here on the inner corner of my eye if I want more detailed blending. I also use this brush to apply my pat concealer in MD22 for my sculpting, and this brush fits perfectly into the hollows of the cheeks as you see, and it makes it effortless to just know where the product goes so it doesn't travel too far high or down. And I'll quickly show the footage here when I roll into my blush routine, but when switching from cream to powder, all you need is a microfiber towel or even a regular towel, because synthetic fibers can take more of a beating than natural fibers can. So even if it's a regular towel, you rub the brush on there to get the cream product off the fibers and then move into your powder medium. I like this brush to press the powder onto my cheeks, and I use my Suku blush, which is more of a traditional powder formula. So maybe today we'll try maybe a gelée formula, or maybe we could try a cream blush formula, because this will definitely have an advantage since it's like the shape is just cheek perfect, you know what I'm saying? Going in with my Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter on the high points of the face. In number 3, light medium, and number 5, tan. And then I take the V50 and blend that product into my skin. And again, the shape of the brush just makes it so intuitive to use in terms of not only how soft it feels on the skin, because there could be some synthetic brushes that feel a little prickly, okay? This just feels plush on the skin, very soft. And again, this design facilitates a really comfortable pull down that doesn't tug on the skin, but at the same time, you could push the brush into the skin and it's not going to absorb too much product, and the product itself will remain beautifully on. All right, we got, look at this glow, hey. Keeping it fairly simple, using my Suku cream foundation in 035, and without a doubt, this brush is simply fantastic for foundation application. It does remind me of the BK Beauty contour brush. The BK Beauty contour brush is rounder in its construction, so it does take up more surface area on the face, which will then perhaps lead to a faster application simply because it's a bigger brush. But I do appreciate that this brush is not too tightly packed, in that it will leave behind a beautiful natural finish and not apply too much foundation. But that's why I like to apply the foundation on the back of my hand first. I feel I have a little more control over the coverage in that way. And it could get really nicely around the nostrils as well as in between the forehead. And you could just pounce this brush onto the skin, work the product in further, whether you pounce it on, do the pull down technique, it all works. The swift and pull, I'm just making out words as I go along, don't mind me. Now I showed in the demo how I was able to apply concealer. One side I'll leave alone. This side, however, I'll go in with the V50 and I'll use the pull down to gently just spread the product, and then I'll get it right in under my eye. Now you see, it's not the ideal size to get super tight under the eye, and that's when I'll go in with my V29 brush to just get a little in and around tighter under the eye. And why don't we go over the details for the V29? The ESUM V29 medium shadow makeup brush retails for $36. It's a medium scalloped shaped brush, perfect for all over to blending eye makeup. Now because it is a far smaller brush than the V50, is not going to be as fast in applying the concealer, but you see how beautifully it just gets under the eye, and it's very soft. These new synthetic fibers, I definitely recognize the difference in other synthetic brushes that I have used. It doesn't stab the eye, and it's just very gentle in the blend. Complexion is looking nice. Now in the demo, I applied Pat's concealer in MD22 for my bronzer, if you will. I'll apply my Shiseido today in 401 Tan. I'll apply it directly from the stick and then go back to the V50, wiping it off my towel just so that I could get a fresh application. And then we press the concealer into the hollows. but because of how the brush spreads, and if you take the edge of it right here on the hollows, it naturally blends the product up, and you don't have to worry about getting that bronzer beard, you know, if you blend too low. And in the same manner, I'll take it on the temples of the forehead, around the brow edge, and it's just a seamless application. Again, I love how this brush is not super big because I have a little more control here. Now let's say I wanted to use the V29 for this application. In that case, either straight from the stick, or I could apply the stick on the back of my hand and just place it in the hollows here. Now it's a smaller brush, so perhaps you could use this brush to maybe apply the product first and then go in with the V50 to further blend it out. You know how people like to draw their contour on first just to kind of see it visually before they start blending? This brush, perfect for that purpose. So again, I could get some on the back of my hand, and granted the Shiseido gel stick is immaculate, okay? Get some with the V29, apply it here, just like you saw. And also, if you take it on the tip of the brush, the product that you're using, you can gently sculpt either side of the nose also. This is a perfectly sized brush for some nose contour around the tip of the nose. Okay, and again, we'll just press this into the hollows. I wanted to quickly showcase an application of cream blush using the V50 because, you know, it's just, why not? I like to scoop some product out and place it on the back of my hand. Make sure I warm that up first, and then taking the V50, just press it on. And again, this brush is just beautifully shaped and sized for cheek application. Whether you want to keep it on the apples of the cheeks or place it higher. And again, I can't get over how soft these bristles are. The texture is amazing. So that is our cream application. What do we think, fam? How are the products looking to you so far? We primarily only use 2 brushes, and we've used V29 just for our concealer application, but everything else has just been with this one brush. Okay, so if you're only looking for one brush or in the market for one brush, a synthetic one specifically that takes on a lot of complexion application tasks, just saying, why don't we move into V49? ESUM V49 large powder makeup brush retails for $38. Large scallop shaped brush designed for setting makeup with powder. In the demo here, I apply loose powder to my under eyes in addition to all over my face. So here I come comparing it to natural hair brushes again. So this powder brush is very soft. I do feel because of the new fiber technology, it better mimics a powder brush application. But if you want to see, this is my beloved Chikuhodo Z9. No matter what, a natural brush is just going to have an edge over a synthetic one when it comes to powder application, especially if you're one to have really sensitive skin. Now, many of you had shared that synthetic brushes are still great for you despite the fact that you have sensitive skin, and maybe you haven't had great experiences with synthetic brushes, but this one is very soft. So if you insist on using synthetic brushes but you haven't found one quite soft enough, this might do the trick. And if you want to still see them side by side, again, there is a softness and a glide that exists in, especially, let me correct myself, a Japanese made natural hair brush that is not laser cut but hand bundled. I was very happy to discover yesterday that this powder brush is very soft, and I do like how it applies powder. I do. And if I had to use this brush, I would have no problem. So let's take it under the eyes. And you see that it applies the powder pretty nicely. I like to press simply because a synthetic fiber is a little more heavy duty than a gray squirrel one. I don't want to start doing this and risk moving the product around. And here you'll see a little swirling and twirling. Again, it's one of the softer synthetic brushes for powder that I have used. So I do feel a difference in this new fiber technology. If you want to see the Z9 in action, again, there's just, you know, I just love, oh my God, I love this brush. It's an unfair matchup, I totally understand. The only reason why I make these comparisons, fam, is that I know you are very interested in finding out the differences. It's not to throw shade at synthetic brushes. It's not to just say Japanese brushes are always better. People love to know. People want to know the differences. I have both, so I'm just presenting you these observations, okay? Don't get mad at me. But this synthetic brush is not bad, okay? And I am picky. Quickly showing you how I use the V49 to apply my bronzer. I do still appreciate its silky feel. I do think it applied my bronzer quite evenly. Again, because I have such a vast collection of Huda brushes, I tend to just gravitate towards those and use those over the synthetic one. But I do value the synthetic brushes in cream application. That, you know, I'm not using my gray squirrel to apply a cream bronzer, right? So I will then rely on synthetic brushes for those tasks and to know I'm gonna get a beautiful application. Now going into some bronzer, let's grab the V50 again. In the first round of B-roll, I applied the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Bronzer, which is more of a traditional powder, but I wanted to dip in to like a baked formula just to see if we can get similar pickup. So here is the V50 with my Chantecaille bronzer in Sirena. And I'm actually just gonna pounce it on because I think this brush does really nicely in depositing powder in this way. But you could also swirl and twirl. It's not going to move the makeup too much, but you see it picked up quite a bit. And I'm just blending it out so I could get a smoother finish. That's not bad. And I thought on this side, why don't we go in with a traditional powder again, but this time we'll roll into the Mented bronzer in Vacay. I'll use my V49 for this, and we'll swirl and twirl on this side. You could also pounce on. I think that's a nice application also. This is my Chikuhodo Kazan 04, and I just love to use this brush to kind of smooth out anything, because since this is a softer brush than the synthetic ones, if you just want to buff product out without moving what's underneath, you'll use a smoother brush. But this isn't bad. I would say don't apply as much pressure, but this is a realistic routine for me. I go between both just, you know, because I feel they will yield different results. But this is what we're looking with the bronzer stage. Let's roll into some powder blush. Definitely want to use V50, a more traditional powder. This is from the Suku blush palette in 102. And again, we'll just pounce that on. You could also do a little pull down action, and actually could be a little more aggressive in picking up more product. There we go. Doesn't look too bad. Why don't we go in with a satin formula? This is their blush palette in 101. I'm gonna pick up the more corally types of hues here. These do pick up a lot of product, I gotta say. During the eyeshadow demo yesterday, I was like, oh, I see. Again, you could pounce. I rather swirl and twirl with the V49. The V49 is not as tightly packed as the V50. So when you start doing this, I get a little worried. I don't want product to move around, so I rather use this brush to pounce on the product. And if I only have this on hand, I'll then use it to swirl and twirl to further buff. We haven't applied a highlighter yet, friends. I wanted to use a tougher texture. I feel I could sometimes encounter problems when using synthetic brushes, or maybe not. This is the Dior Glow Face in Rose Gold. This could be a little tricky. The only brush in this collection I find that you can successfully apply highlighter with is the V29, but I do think it's a little small. It's great maybe for pinpoint highlighting if you want to keep it very tight here on the cheekbone. I mean, you could use the V49 and just place the highlighter right at the tip of the brush. The V50 could be a little tricky. You could probably place it here, but I think that'll be a little too much. So why don't we go in with V49 and just strike it across these three. I made sure not to set my cheekbone on purpose so we could get a little more stick. But that's not too bad. Again, it's a little big for a highlight. So if you wanted to dip out, you could use your favorite synthetic brush that is more tapered and has a smaller head shape design. This is my Sonergy mini cheek, just so you could see the difference, and I could see the difference also. I do feel I get a bit of a smoother pickup when I'm using this brush with these particular textures. So here is the V series side, and here is the natural hair side, specifically Sonia's mini cheek brush. I much prefer the application here. It could be because the brush is very big and I have to use a smaller one, so I'm just gonna fix what I have here and then further buff. But all in all, that's not too bad. And here's a closer look at my skin texture. Despite all the products we applied, I still think my skin appears smooth. It doesn't look like it has too much product. I wouldn't apply this much normally, but to give you as many examples as I can, look at me losing my Z9 habits, but I want to go back and forth just so I could better feel out any differences and report back. All right, complexion is done. We already set. I think it's time to go in with these eyes. Why don't we start with the V34 that replaced the G34. This is the difference between both brushes. The original G34 is made with goat hair. This, of course, the new one made with the new synthetic Vexlon fibers. To tell you right now, I was very impressed with how well the V34 picked up powder product. I also really appreciate how it glided across the skin. I would still go with my G34 for tougher to blend powder textures. I think it's just a little more aggressive. It's a little scratchier than some of my other goat hair brushes, but I appreciate that because it's going to manipulate the product. Like, I would use this with a melt eyeshadow powder. That's a little rough and tough sometimes, okay? But specific details for the V34, a large, elongated, round, dome-shaped powder brush, ideal for transition to building eye makeup. Now in the B-roll, I used this brush to blend out my Sydney Grace cream eyeshadow, and just like I explained with face brushes, it's the same thing if you're working with a cream eye product. Nothing better than a synthetic brush to move that product around and to not risk your brush getting damaged in the process, because natural fibers are more delicate and you're able to wash a synthetic brush more often. You're just able to be a little more rough with it without compromising its structure and the integrity of the fibers. And applying eyeshadow on myself, I know I don't have the most mature lids, but if you are one that does, I would still use a natural hair brush. Although the V34 is very soft, I have to hold it at the very end of the handle just so it doesn't move the skin, because if I were to quickly show you one of my standout favorites, the Chikuhodo Z11, one of the softest brushes on the market, I could hold it close to the base and it's not going to move the skin, whereas you have to be careful with the synthetic fiber brush and just lightly put pressure on your lid so as to not move the skin back and forth. So I thought, why don't we go in with a cream eye product to really showcase the efficacy of the V34. This brush, not only for under eye concealer blending, the no shading, cream. Now we got several options here, fam. I got my Sydney Grace, which so good. I applied Campfire yesterday with my V29 and it got it on my lids fast. I used the V34 to blend out my edges, but I could very much well still use the V29. It's soft enough to lightly blend the edges. It's not going to have that same ebb and flow as the V34 simply because the bristles are shorter. They're more tightly packed if you want to see them side by side. This is going to give you a little more movement versus this one, you're going to have to hold a little lighter to have that control in the blend. Why don't we go in with the Deep Love? Now, as you've seen with a lot of my complexion products, even with the eyes, I like to place some on the back of my hand. And with the V29, we're going to take some of that and apply it right on the lid. Now, this works okay on me because I have medium to large eyes. A smaller eye will benefit from the smaller shader brush size that is also included in this collection. Now again, you could use this to slightly blend the edges, but this is where I much rather would go in with the V34. So I'll take some of the same product, and in the same manner I would apply a powder product on the crease. I would then use this brush to blend out the cream. And this is where I feel the V34 shines. It's very smooth on the skin. Again, maybe not as smooth as the Z11 or even my Hakuhodo J5522, but I rather use a synthetic brush to blend out an eye cream product, most definitely. And while we're here, why don't I introduce to you the V33. Replacing our S33. Now see how they made the new V33 more domed and the old S33 is more tapered. I do prefer this shape, I do. because I use my S33 to tap on color on the very outer corner of my lid, and then I use the tip of the brush to take it through the crease more precisely. But this picks up a lot of nice product, and if you have smaller eyes and you weren't looking to get all 8 brushes, you could skip the G34 and then use the new V33 to get a little more precise blending here through the crease. It also fits nicely on the inner part of the eye. You could use it to apply a deeper shade on the outer corner and then sweep it in to further blend. I'm going in with Natasha's Dogbane. I'm placing some here first, and why don't I go in with the V27? In the B-roll, I use the V27 to not only apply Natasha's metallic formula, but I also use it to blend shadow under the lash lines. So I'll roll you through the clips here. And this is a shader brush that, because it's synthetic, you could use it with cream products. I found, because Natasha's metallic formula is incredibly smooth, that this brush was very successful in picking that product up. And quickly, this is a small shadow brush and a scallop shaped one to controlled shading, highlighting, to blending eye makeup, and it retails for $24. And if I were to compare it to V27, you see how significantly bigger V29 is to V27. And again, I could get away with the size for my eyes, but if you have smaller eyes and you like this for your complexion step, then that's how you can incorporate the brush into your routine. If you need a smaller shader brush, let's go in with Dogbane, and I would like to apply this more so on the greater lid area, but simply because of the smaller head size, I have a little bit more control in how I place this main stage shade. And I could keep the application under the crease. I could tap it lightly to blend the edges. And what I especially love this brush for, as I showed in my previous B-roll, is to take it under the eyes. It's not too small to look tight to the lash line, not too big for the blend to go out of control. I feel is perfectly sized to get the right amount of smoke under the lash line. And let's connect it here towards the cream shadow. Make sure you wipe your brushes in between, fam, especially when you're using these textures, because you don't want them to dry hard on the bristles. But the advantage, of course, like I mentioned before, with synthetic fibers is that you could wash them way more often than natural ones without damaging the fibers. Hopping back in with S33, and just to show you, I'm applying Dogbane again. You could get a smoother, more precise blend in throughout the crease. You could also take some of this under your lash line and it not blow down too far. Going in with my Kaleidos Sashimi City palette, which shame on me, I have not been using, and look how beautiful this is. This mango colored beige shade with S34. It picks up nice product, I gotta say, for synthetic brush. Lightly on the edges, but I'm being very careful with the pressure that I apply here on my eyes because I don't want the skin to move. And again, if you hold it light on the handle, you'll be very successful in that application. Now, because we started with cream products for this eye look, I then want to go in with my Hourglass primer on this side. And naturally, I would use my V27 brush to apply this on the lid. I could also go in with my V29. It'll be a faster process, but you know, it's okay. But look at Dogbane. My gosh. If you want to see the difference again between a natural hairbrush, let me go in with the Sonergy Blender Pro. This one's a little more tapered. I like dome brushes for blending, but I also appreciate the tapered shape so it could get really nice in the crease. Again, as much as I feel the new synthetic fiber technology is definitely closer to mimicking a smooth blend of a natural hairbrush, especially to a brush that is Japanese made. It just feels so different to me. It feels smoother. It feels, no matter how much pressure I apply on my eye, the skin's not gonna move and there's just not gonna be any skip, and the product pickup is phenomenal. I do think, however, these fibers, these newer fibers, pick up more product than an average synthetic brush does. For instance, let's go in with this shade. Now in my V33, I'll tap first on the outer V, and then I'll start to take it through the crease. Again, not bad at all. It still feels very smooth on the skin, But again, I don't have skin that moves around a lot, so I don't feel myself to be a great candidate to really dive into the smoothness of this brush. However, you can see though, it picked up really nice product. I went in a second time, going in with the mango shade now with my V34 on the edges. Not too bad. Oh, but do I miss my old G34. And just so you can see, this is my Chica Hodo Z11. You could just see how differently it moves from, let's say, the V34. Going in with those deeper brown shades with my V33 just throughout the crease. I will say though, there are some natural hair brushes that are not very soft at all, that they are machine made and very rough. This definitely feels softer than some of those that I have tried in the past, for sure. V27 again, and let's now try a metallic shade. I'm gonna rub this back and forth to pick up enough product, and let's see what this does. Now this texture is more of a topper shade. I'm not gonna judge this brush based on that texture because even with a natural hair brush, it could be very tricky, and I would reserve that application to my finger. If anything, let's try the Viseart Sultry Muse Pro palette. Let's go in with this shade here, and I think we'll be more successful with this application since this is a shimmer formula. Yeah, for sure. This applies it much better, I think, because the Kaleidos texture is a little tricky. And even in my initial demo, I found that it's a better application with the finger. But smooth shimmer textures like the one found in Sultry Muse, this picks up great. And now that we're getting into more detailed work, why don't I show you the V31. That is replacing the old S31. You see the new V31 is a touch larger than the original. Both have points design on the brush head, and I do really like the S31 for just that precise application on the inner tear duct as well as the inner lower lash line, and also to blend out a pencil or maybe to start a wing. If you like to do cut creases, you could blend out your pencil here above the crease. The new V31 is also very soft and is also optimal for, again, the inner tear duct, the inner lower lash line. So let's stick to this palette. I'll go in here with this goldy shade, place it right here on the inner corner. And dare I say, this brush could be a little big for smaller eyes, especially if you want to get lower here on the inner lash line, and that's why I would use the V09. ESUM V09 is the liner diffuser brush and it retails for $18. An extra small scallop shaped brush ideal for detailing shading along the lash line, blending eyeliner to inner eye highlighting. So if you wanted that pop of color, let's hop back into Kaleidos. I'll use the V09 for the super sparkly shade. And for this right here, perfect. Now again, this texture is a little tricky. I will go back in on top. Perhaps we'll go back into Sultry Muse and apply the shade that we did so on the inner tear duct. Go back in on the inner corner, but this is a perfectly sized brush for inner corner. Not only that, but this applied my melt pot wing beautifully. I apply the melt liner on the back of my hand, as you know, and then use the brush to just sketch it out. But because it's so tightly packed but smooth at the same time, it did not drag my lids. I was very much able to get a nice wing shape without the hassle. I spent some time on it naturally because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, but I just loved how it turned out, and this will be now my go-to brush for those creamy textures. I thought maybe we could go in with another chromium shade. Let's try Infranude. I wanted to do two things. I wanted to apply one of Wayne's liners first. This is in Rich Hazel, and use the V09 to blend that out. And I really appreciate how smoothly it does. It manipulates the pencil well, and then when you start to pull it out, you could build that wing if you wanted. You could also place some of the liner on the outer portion of your lash line to create more smoke. So this brush is great to move your liner around. If you wanted something more graphic, I could grab another chromium. This is in the shade Infranude. With the same V09 brush, and over the pencil, especially now we have a deeper base, it will show a little more popped out. We could start building our wing, or more specifically our multi-chrome wing. And again, this moves the product beautifully, and I thought fairly easy to use to build a wing with. So there you have it. I love this brush for wing building. I think the size is perfect. It's not too thick, but not too thin either. So that allows for you to pick up enough product to lay down and use, and then you could just build as you go, but it's not over manipulating the skin. You could really get like that smooth application. And I could also use the same brush with some powder product to set the Wayne pencil here on the outer portion of my lower lash line. If you want more precise application under your lash line, instead of going in with the V27, you could use the V31. And in that case, I'm using the peach shade we first applied here on the crease with that same brush and just pull it through the lower lash line. And I still think that creates really nice smoke. It's a little stiffer than the original S31, but still very soft. So still apply the right amount of pressure so you don't pull the skin. Optimal for brow bone highlight, which I always forget to do, but look at me, I remember this time. Pointed tip allows the right amount of product to be deposited on the brow arch. We did not put anything inner corner here at all. What is wrong with us? I'm just hopping in Sultry Muse and taking that pinkier shade here on the inner part of the eye. And why not? Because it's synthetic. We can't use a cream product. Let's hop into Sydney Grace's Spice Cider. Take some of that, and now we'll apply it on the lower lash line over dog bane. I know I had dog bane there, I know, but I just wanted to give this another chance. Now I see what's happening. I much rather use the V27 for lower lash line application because the V31 pull this a little lower than I would have liked. This brush keeps it tighter than the V31. So I know that for next time, and if you were looking out for that, definitely I find if you want a more conservative amount of powder under the lash line, the V27 over the V31. But V31, great for the inner corner. And maybe if you're applying powder instead of a cream product. Taking the glitzy shade from the Kaleidos palette with my V31 on the very inner part of the eye. That was the pink one. And this is the more duochromy, shiny, almost reminds me of Fire Opal, dare I say. All right, I'm gonna apply some mascara and we'll look at the final looks from the B-roll and today when we get back. Here's the finished look on the eyes. I applied some Lancome Big Monsieur mascara in waterproof. Here we have mostly the cream shadow side and mostly the powder side with the multi-chrome wing on. And here is a wide shot of the look using the V series brushes new from ESUM. Again, a huge thank you to them for sending me these brushes before they went on sale just to try them and really wrap my thoughts around them. Overall, I'm very impressed by the performance not only, but the technology of these fibers. I do recognize the fact that this new technology yields a softer finish, a softer feel. And although, again, I'm always harping on the fact that natural hair brushes made in Japan, especially when they're in the gray squirrel, even Kolinsky spectrum of things, are beyond soft, beyond silky. And I don't think any makeup artist will deny that. It's just nice, however, to have a wide variety of options if you want to use cream and powder, if you want to go from one to the other. Remember, as much as I love my Z9, it is very limited. It's only great with powders because cream will damage these fibers. But if you primarily use cream products like Danessa Myricks, she is a cream product fiend, and if you are as well, you will definitely benefit from a synthetic brush collection, not only for complexion but for eyes also. I enjoy the brushes for the eyes. I think especially, like I said, if you're using cream product, there's no better matchup. If I had to pick my favorite brush out of the bunch, it definitely has to be the V50. This is so versatile. You saw how many tasks we were able to cover with this brush, from foundation to powder blush application. It takes you through the entire routine flawlessly and effortlessly. And I think because of the head size, the brush design is so effortless in all the tasks that it can achieve. So this will be my favorite out of all 8. They're all spectacular, but I understand we want to save and make reasonable purchases, that if buying the whole set is not necessary for you, but if you are a pro artist, sure, you can consider it. And do remember, if you are a pro, you get a discount from Muse Beauty Pro. So if you were looking at the whole set, maybe you can get a little savings on it. And again, this video was to show you as many demos as possible, to compare them with my other favorite brushes, and to also show the comparisons between the brushes that they replaced from their original line. I love my G34 and S33 and S31, but it's so nice to see the new versions of the synthetic variations. I think they are still spectacular. I love that I have a brush that I could use to blend out my cream products with. If you wanted to quickly see, this is the BK Beauty 201, and between the two, the new V fibers are softer. They are. It's kind of insane, because this is pretty soft to begin with, but this, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Other brushes that come to mind are the 203 and the V27. So the V27 is a tad shorter, where the 203 is a little longer. I like them both. I think they're great for both cream applications. I like to use my 203 to apply my primer, as well as even with powder shadow, I could get it under the lash line successfully. This is a little more stiff, so if you want more of a precise shade or shape, then the V27. And if you wanted to quickly see the 101 compared to the V50, you can see how smaller the V50 is. But I do think because of that, it's a little more versatile if you like to apply a lot of cream products. So this is bae for foundation application, right? You see it just hits a wider surface area than the V50 does, but because it spreads upon contact, you can get away with a faster application. And the bristles on the 101 are shorter, whereas not so much on the V50. So you're getting a little more spread from the V50, but more compact application from the 101 contour brush. The V31 versus the 207, you see that the V31 is more tapered, the 207 more domed. I prefer a tapered shape for the inner corner of my eye, but I do recognize the value of a dome shape to get a little bit more of an aggressive blend along the crease if you're blending out a shadow or blending out a pencil for a cut crease look. And I'm missing the other BK Beauty brush is a lot more tapered than the 201. So the difference I know for sure from that brush and the V33 is that that one is tapered and this is domed. So that is the primary difference between those two brushes. So if you use synthetic brushes and you much prefer a tapered shape to apply that outer corner shadow, then you will much prefer that tapered shape versus a more domed one. I was still successful in applying that on the outer portion, but because this is dome and I don't have the smallest eyes, I was able to get away with that. But if you have smaller eyes and you need a tapered brush for that outer lid application, then the BK Beauty brush will work for that. All right, I think those are all the demos and all the comparisons I could possibly think of in the moment. You know how I love to do lives, fam. So if you want to see these brushes in action again with different products, let me know down below. I'll be more than happy to hop back on a live so you can see them in action again. Let me know if you have your eye on the new ESUM V series, if you plan on picking up the whole collection, if you brushes, one or none, let me know down below. And until then, fam, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I'll see you in here again with another review, tutorial, brush demo extravaganza with B-roll, monthly favorites, or nightly live chit chat. Take care, and I will see you again soon.